Okay, I've just got back from holiday, so I'm a bit all over the place, so bear with me while I shuffle papers and things. This is a silly poem to start with. I like silly poems, don't you?
Yeah.
Good. It's called the Chica Fit. Who on earth do you think you are? You were told not to do it. You do have some bloody nerve. Whatever gave you the right to assume you could do it? Who on earth do you think you are? So smug and confident that you knew how to do it. You do have some bloody nerve. Treating us like retarded sheep because we couldn't do it. Who on earth do you think you are? We've tried to do it for years until you went and did it. You do have some bloody nerve. Sopping up all the praise just because you've done it. Who on earth do you think you are? You do have some bloody nerve. How did you do it? I'm very happy if you keep the applause till the end, as long as you clap at the end. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. I had an accident a few years back and was confined to a sedentary existence for a while, so being very bored with life, I wrote a poem about it, and it's called Apology from a Reluctant Tortoise. Basically, I banged my leg and it came up in a huge great bump and I had to rest it, and it was extremely tedious. Today I waddle without ease or grace. Seated, I prop my left leg on a chair. I have to walk at half my normal pace. When I backed off that train, plus heavy case, the platform I expected wasn't there. Today I waddle without ease or grace. My leg descended into hyperspace, then clashed with some subcarriage ironware, so now I walk at half my normal pace. My calf resembles mauve and yellow lace. My shin is swollen like a conference pear, which makes me waddle without ease or grace. From toe to knee, I have a carapace of white stretch bandage, which I hate to wear. It slows me down to half my normal pace. It was my fault, the truth I have to face. A bit less hurry and a bit more care, I'd not be waddling without ease or grace, or forced to walk at half my normal pace. The book I'm reading from, incidentally, is one of the previous Highgate Poets anthologies. One of the things we're really proud of is that we bring these out every couple of years. And I'm not going to read anything from the current one, but there are some copies up there if anyone is interested in them. What should we have next? This one's called Family Heirloom. There she is, caught, black-robed in her gilded frame, my great-great-grandmother. That round face is red-cheeked with fury, her thin, pursed mouth clenched as if she had bitten the bitterest plum in the bowl. Too well-bred to spit, too fastidious to swallow, she sits choking on acid and venom. If I dispose of this matriarch, wrath will fall on me from her repressed descendants. She frightens me, showing no spark of love or kindness. She bore 13 children and buried 8 of them. Moving on up the generations, that was my great-great-grandmother. This is quite a long poem. It's about my grandmother, whose name was Grace, but I think it chugs along quite quickly. She swears that what happened in here is true. I obviously was not around and cannot vouch for it. It's called Grace Takes to the Sea. She heard the story of Jesus at the Sea of Galilee, how he walked upon the waters. questioned how this could be. "It's all a matter of faith, Grace," the minister answered her. "Jesus had faith in our Father, so a miracle could occur." Now, Grace was a willing pupil, attentive in Sunday school, obedient, believing, devoted, but also a bit of a fool. So she put her trust in Jesus, and armed by faith against fear, after the evening service, she walked to the end of the pier. "I've got lots of faith," she murmured, "and I know it worked for him." Then she stepped out onto the water. She never had learned to swim. After sinking deep down to the bottom, she bobbed up like a rubber duck. Then, buoyed by her skirts and bloomers, plus a fair amount of luck, she splashed her way through the shallows. There wasn't much of a swell, and it was low tide, but in April that water is cold as hell. By the time she beached, she was sodden. Her hair was soaking too. Its ringlets had turned to rat's tails, and her mouth was slightly blue. Worse, the new boots she was so proud of were completely waterlogged. She squelched like a bed of seaweed with every step she trod. "You silly girl," scolded her father. Her mother just shook her head as she stripped the salt rags from her daughter and bundled her into bed. "Grace, darling, what made you do it?" she asked the shivering Grace. "To be like Jesus," Grace spluttered. "I was sure I had enough faith." Questions were raised in the parish. Exactly who was to blame? Grace stayed in bed for a fortnight, acquiring a certain fame and rather more notoriety. When a minister came to call, her father, a long-time elder, socked his jaw in the hall. Grace recovered and pondered. She didn't exactly grow wise, but came to regard her adventure as a childish enterprise. She had a robust constitution. Though she went to church no more, she put her faith in the ocean and was bathing at 84. This is another of our anthologies. Well, I don't think I need to introduce this one. It's called An Unwanted Present, which is probably something we all get sometimes. Your taste was usually good, but this silver pillbox embellished with shamrocks, topped with a mushroom, on which perched, cross-legged, a leprechaun. How pretty, I managed. Later, I found a dark corner to hide it until your next visit. This summer, I nearly gave it to cancer research or a hospice. Instead, I placed it, almost as ugly as ever, in full sunlight to shine as your epitaph. Whenever I say I'm going to read a poem about my cat, a groan goes up, and there is sometimes a mass exodus. It's quite short, and it's called Putting Him Down. While I held him, he snuggled closer into my body. His cream and gold fur was warm, his paws like cushions, claws fully retracted. Very softly, he purred, while I spoke to him. Love and trust seemed to flow. He didn't flinch when the needle went in. It was so quick. He slumped, grew heavy, his death outpacing my thought of it. I said, "Is that it?" The vet had to pull back his eyelid, touch the dulled lens with her nail to make me believe it. Already, though his presence remained, I felt his body stiffening, cooling. As I kissed him goodbye, I wished I had confidence that when my turn came, somebody could do the same thing for me. On a macabre note, I have no idea what this poem is about. I always hope somebody will tell me. It came to me quite quickly, so it's a bit of a mystery. It's called The Ghost's Tale. Do not haunt me, mother, now that I am dead. Your clawing love would smother the red moon overhead. The lures you used to bind me unravel into clouds. I melt. You will not find me in these grey healing shrouds. You would not let me follow the life I tried to live. Now that my limbs are hollow, my heart dust, I forgive my father, sisters, brother, for lost dreams, love unsaid, and exercise you, mother, now that I am dead. I'd just like to read a couple more. There's another anthology as it happens. I haven't done this on purpose, it just happens. You'll believe me. This one, again, I'm not terribly sure what it means. It's called Parallel Lines. And how after touching, snail-like, we draw in our horns, bristle like cats shocked alert by an unexpected electric charge, and retreat. And how, after opening, we draw close the shutters, blindfold the windows, deny the first glimpse of daylight to our minds. And how, after loving, we roll over and lie just apart, carefully not touching, caution prickling between us, miming sleep. Thank you. And finally, this is one that Anna, who's disappeared, asked me to read. I would like to thank a friend of ours, a mutual friend called Guy Redmond, who you may know as another name now, who had the original idea. It was at a workshop, and he came up with this piece of prose which was based around places and street names and events in Liverpool, which was where he came from, and he called it The Black Thing. Now, I come from Scotland, so a little bit of Scottish crept into this, with names and occasionally the accent. I'm not going to read the whole thing in a Scottish accent, but it does come into it. And it's a poem, I think, but I have also called it The Black Thing. Grandpa thinks it was dropped by the Germans. Cousin Maud says it is flotsam from a wreck. Auntie Aileen thinks the angels have sent it, but I don't ken why. Father believes it's God's tribulation. Big brother Hamish thinks it's a portal to a parallel universe. My mother thinks it's an eyesore and they should move it. Mrs. Burns in the corner shop is sure it holds nuclear waste. The butcher blames the Russians and the Cubans and the CIA. Grandma thinks it leads to the world of the little people. My friend Morag thinks it's for keeping sand in. Uncle Alec says it must be something to do with the electricity. Sandy McPherson never thinks at all, but he peed against it. Our cat Alistair knows it's a good place to sun himself. My wee sister wants to dig it up and take it home. Mungo Park, our Labrador, tried to do that. The police told the council to put up a notice. The council says the firemen need it to top up their hoses. The NHS wants to close it down. Church of Scotland warns that it's sinful. The Roman Catholics call it a miracle and light candles at it. The Buddhists say it doesn't really exist. Someone on Facebook claims it's connected to Councillor Gordon's secret life. The vet thinks it would make a good container for doggy do-bags. St Aidan's College thinks it's an outlet for the Hadron Collider. Our science teacher, Angus Mackay, dreamed it was filled with green people from somewhere beyond the Andromeda Nebula. Jason McQueen and Kylie McTavish had sex under it. Year 8 meet there to smoke, tweet, post and text. I don't want to think about it. I wish it would just go away.